Everyone, and welcome to the second session for this week, focusing on brackets and PhoneGap Build. In this session, it's more of an advanced session. The first session we did this morning, I will link in the YouTube comments, so you should watch that, and that will give you some background as to the follow on what we're doing in this session. And this session, of course, will be recorded to everyone, and you will receive an email if you registered. If not, you should join, have a look for the session 2 activity and recording link that's in the chat pod at the moment. Our presenter this morning is, or this afternoon, sorry, it's morning my world, it's afternoon your world, is Mark Shufflebottom, who's a professor at Sheridan College in Canada. And Mark, as I mentioned this morning, is my person that I know does this stuff. It's not my world, but it's very much Mark's world, and I always think of him, and he's wonderful with this, so it always makes it look awesomely easy to do. So Mark, we might head over to you and to get this show happening. And again, I'll mute myself. Just tell me when you want to open that next pod with the camera on it.
Okay, nice to see you, everybody. I can't really see you, but I feel like I can kind of see you. Hopefully you can hear me, and we're ready to go for the second session today on PhoneGap. So it's good to see that there's a few people with a little bit of experience, people here, and hopefully there'll be something for everybody in this session. The first session that we did this morning was a bare bones, really simple to get set up and going with it. We didn't really do anything that was that creative. This time we're going to do a little bit more, and we're going to try and create a new project in which we do something just a little bit more fun. I did try and add something this morning that went horribly wrong, in the sense that it just didn't work, but I didn't really prepare for it. I just tried to do it quickly on the spot. I have actually got that up and running and working now, so if there is time at the end, I'll probably just show you stuff to do with the camera as well. So hopefully I might be able to show 2 projects very, very quickly today. So I'm going to start, as I did this morning, by creating a new project, and I am going to save it in a folder. Project. Okay, and I'm going to call this app 2 just because we did it this morning. So create a project, you see the project, you can click on it here, and as I said this morning, the real nuts and bolts of what goes on is in this www folder. And for the project I'm going to do now, I'm going to try and create a kind of spinning wheel project that you might be able to use in the classroom. It's a great activity to try and do with kids, because it's very visual, gives lots of feedback, but you could actually use it in the classroom by putting activities on this spinning wheel. So it could be used to generate activities that you might do in the classroom. So kind of a bit of fun in that respect. Okay, so I need a few things for this. I've created some assets for it, which I've already kind of tested. So there's my wheel. I'm going to drag that over into my images folder over here, which is my project today. I've also got an arrow that points to that wheel, so I'm going to grab that. Take that over into the images folder as well, so they're in there. And I'm going to just quickly use Jquery as well, so I'm going to drag Jquery over, and I think that is all I need for now. Okay, so as I did this morning, I'm going to get this open brackets, and I'm going to start editing away at this. So you get a bare bones project when you start off with Phone. Gives you this kind of very basic project that you get here, and it just shows a PhoneGap on. So I'm going to change that and make it a little bit better. So I'm going to give this an ID, and the ID is going to be page 1. There isn't going to be more than one page, but I just happen to name it that. And then inside here, I'm going to get rid of the heading 1 for that, and give this ID. I'm going to do a spinner, so I'm going to just change this a little bit and get rid of that class there as well. So I'm kind of getting rid of all the basic stuff that was here before, and now I'm getting ready to start my images in. Let's use my image tag. Source of this is going to be the wheel to start off with, so image slash, there's the wheel PNG. And the great thing about brackets is that you can get a view when you hover your mouse. So I'm going to give this an ID as well, so I can talk to it later on. And the ID of this is going to be image, not very original. My second image is going to be the arrow. So G, just format so to make sure it's correct. And I'm going to give this the ID equals. Okay, so done with that. Now, what I'm going to do to start off with is really just try and get the design of this working in a web browser. So before I even start going to the phone, to speed this up even more, I'm just going to test it in a web browser. Click the button up here to do the live link. I'm going to shrink this down to make it look a bit like the web browser. And now we can see there's the spinning wheel and there is the arrow. Now they're not positioned correctly at the moment, but they will be as soon as I get my way with it. So push that to the side. To get that working, I'm going to fiddle around with the CSS. So click on the index CSS file here. And honestly, I don't need most of what's in here, so I'm going to get rid of all of the stuff that's right way down here. This is all to do with the test app. Again, I don't really want any of this, so I'm going to get rid of all of that CSS and start playing around with the fact that I want to get rid of it. So the main thing that I want to really add in here, I just want to say that my overflow on the x-axis is going to be hidden, and that's only because on a very small screen it might just hang over the edge. If you look at it, you can see that it might hang over the edge, so I want it to be hidden and centered this so it sits centered in the device and should fit any kind of size device is what I'm looking for. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to create first bit of CSS. I'm going to put this terms in so you can actually see what I'm doing. So page 1, some stuff like that. So I'm going to say that my page 1, the height of this is going to be 100%, and my overflow for this is going to be hidden. That won't really do a lot at the moment, but it will later on. More. Okay, and then I'm going to start starting with the image. So if you remember, the image is the large spinning image. So for that, what I need to do is, because I know I'm using a web browser here, I might not be able to browser for much longer because I'm on an Android. It's 0.5s, if that's my value changed to, but it still works, so it's good. Ease in. It's going to do transform origin. So the point behind this is because the wheel's going to spin, and that's half a second, basically, is what I want to do. I'm going to ease in and out of it, and it does that. And I want to transform the origin point to be the center of the actual image. So if I just have a quick look at the images at the wheel itself, you can see that it's 894 by 894 pixels. So CSS, I want that to be 447 pixels. 447 pixels. So in other words, I'm making the center point of the image the transform origin point. Okay, so that should start to.
So we were just on the spinner, so hopefully we can pick back up where we were before. Okay, sorry everybody for that. Obviously there's nothing worse than listening to bad audio. So I just want to do a few things here in the spinner to get this working. So I just need to set it so that it sits centrally, and I also just want to set up the width of this so that it fills the full width of that image. The top of this I want to hang off the top of the browser, so I want like the top half of it to be hidden, so I'm going to put it at minus 490 pixels, which may seem a bit extreme, but it certainly works well for this. Okay, and then finally my margin left is just going to be minus 447. Okay, so if I've done that correctly, what I should be able to see now is hopefully the spinner working. So well, not working, but it will at least be positioned a little bit better, which it isn't. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I feel like I've been thrown off a little bit there. Okay, so I've clearly done something wrong here, and right now I'm struggling to see exactly what it is. Okay, I'll just carry on with this. I might have to switch out and grab another file for this later on because I've been kind of interrupted there. Okay, so let me try and just get the other file in position.
Patrick says line 54. Line 54.
Oh, yeah, well, there is that as well. Yeah, thanks. There we go. Thank you. Apologies for that. So let's see. No, it's still not working, actually. Yeah. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've actually already got the finished CSS file over here, so I'm just going to drag it over because I think I just need to save a little bit of time now because we've lost a fair bit of time with that, and certainly haven't got time to work out what I've done wrong. So hopefully, let me just check if I've done that correctly now. That's better. Okay. So no idea what I typed daft before, but I obviously typed something a little bit silly. And just for ease of time, I'm going to get past that. So we've got that in position, and that's fine, that's working. So I generally just use a browser to get HTML and CSS elements positioned correctly. So I don't really need that right now, so I'm going to get rid of it. The next thing I want to do is start playing around with this. Actually, first thing I need to do is just add the Jquery library. So I'm going to this line here and paste it into position and change this here to Jquery and pop that in there. Then I'm going to quickly go into my index.js file, and we went over this a little bit this morning, so I'm going to get rid of this content here. So morning's content, want to know more about this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and create a way for this thing to spin. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a variable, and this is called angle, and it's going to be a really, really bizarre number, like 12.25. Now, the reason for this is because if we go to the wheel itself, we've got 16 segments around, and if you were to get 16 segments and divide them by 300, I'll get 360 and divide them by 16, you would be left with 22 and a half. So we're going to have to rotate this 22.5 degrees for every segment that there is. But because it starts here, like with the arrows going to point here at the bottom we can see that there's a black line and it's not over the exact section that we want it to do. So we need to move it like at least half a segment to start off with. So that's what this angle is to start with. We've just added in there that we need 12.25 degrees before we get going. Okay, so that might seem confusing, but hopefully it'll be okay. The next thing I'm going to do then is I'm just going to use Jquery to enable me to get access to the spinner element. And I'm just going to bind onto that a touch start event. So I'll get my touch start in there, which means as soon as it detects a touch on there, it will fire this function that follows right here. So let's just finish that. Okay, and then we always just do a prevent default thing that we call on a touch, just because sometimes when we touch it drags the page or does something like that, so we usually just stop that from happening. And then we're going to take that a direction, and this is where we're actually going to rotate it. So I'm going to round it down using math floor. We're going to do a math.random, and I'm going to say this is 16 because there are 16 segments, and then this whole thing will be multiplied by 22.5 degrees because that's how big each section is. So I've already got the angle, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add onto here my direction. So with that angle that I've got now, I can then talk to the image, and I can say that the CSS, I want to adjust the CSS, and for the WebKit transform, I'm just going to change that to rotate. So we're going to add in that angle into there, and then I'm going to close that off by adding the word DEG at the end of that for degree, because that's the way CSS writes it. And close that, close the bracket, and hopefully that's us done for that. Okay, so if I save that now, I am in a position where I can start looking at this on the actual device itself. And buried underneath my desk is my phone, so hopefully I can get that up and running. And Pep, I'm going to need the screen up in a moment, so I'm just going to get PhoneGap running as I did this morning, connect across to this, and I can see my spinner on the screen, and when I tap it, it moves. But because I can't, Pip, do you have oh, it's okay, I've got it here. Yeah, I just need to get the webcam up. That's it. Sorry. Okay. Okay, it's bringing up the wrong. So I've got two cameras connected. It's bringing up the wrong camera. So now on the device, I'll just come out of this a second so that we can see it. So when you start PhoneGap, it loads up like this. Appears on here, as I said in this morning session, is the number that is on the screen here. So we take this number, add it in here, hit the connect. We connect across on files here, and now when I touch the screen, it whizzes round, and we get that working on there. So we can see it running. And if we wanted to make that a little bit more with the rotation, we could also do on here. Let's see, let's put it in. We could add 360 there. Okay, so if I save that, that'll make refreshes automatically on the screen. It's just refreshed there. So now when I click, it should spin a lot. So you can see it's spinning. It's spinning a minimum of 360, and then the angle on there as well. So in half a second, a lot of spins going around there. And the frame rate is probably quite low on here, but it is actually running ridiculously well on my phone. In fact, it's running amazing. So you can see you can get some real good apps up and running with this kind of thing. So that's just a very, very, very simple app that just requires HTML and JavaScript to make that work. What I could do now is create another project in here. So I'll stop serving that one in a project here, and I'll add an existing project, and I've got this one here called camera. So I'm going to select that. This is what I was attempting to do this morning, which didn't work out too well because I'm not always the best at doing these kinds of things live. But what I'm going to try and do here is I've got a project, and just try and get it up and running. And it's still serving the other one, even though I've stopped it. So I'll start that and stop it. Let's run the camera. For some reason it's still bringing up the original app, so I might just quit PhoneGap or remove that one altogether. Okay, let's try that now. Yeah, that's okay. So what I've got in here is a button that says take a snap. If I click that, okay, it's unresponsive, so I'm going to just quit PhoneGap a second and get it up and running again. Okay, sorry for this, folks. We will get there. I push the button to take a snap. I'm going to take a snap of my screen down here. So when it comes back, it's just a standard phone sort of thing. I can click the tick here and it brings it back into the app, and it's actually displaying the image. So I took a picture of myself on my screen and we're kind of done. So I can provide some of these projects for you. If you want the code, I can give them to Pip and she can distribute them. Okay, we go back and answer any questions.
That would be great, Mark. There's a couple of questions there, not too many. The first one, Patrick wants to know, do you have to test on the device? Do you have to test on the device? Is there a simulator?
There kind of is a simulator, but it's not too good, and you can't do everything that you can on the device. There's no real easier way of doing it than on the device. You should be doing it on the device itself, because that's what this app is actually designed for, so that it syncs up the desktop situation that we've got here and the phone itself. I mean, it's taking the pain out of that. iOS users, for example, would normally have to go out and buy a developer's license before they could even see it on the phone, because of the phone developer app. You can see it on there before you even decide to go and buy a developer license. So it gives a great way for people to test. So I would say you should be testing on, because it is for that device. And a desktop is never going to simulate memory and those kinds of things and performance. So hopefully that's the answer there.
Cool. Does it work on both iPhone and Android?
Yes, iPhone, Android, and Windows Phone as well.
Oh, thank you. Excellent. And Susanna Richards would like to know, what's the camera app supposed to accomplish?
Well, in this case, the camera app wasn't really doing anything. It's just a basic thing just to show that you can take a picture and bring it back and display the application. What I go on to do with my students is that's an introductory one that gets them introduced to just what the camera API looks like and how to work with that. What I later do with them is I then get them to write a memo as well. So memo next to the image, and then they're able to create a sort of memo app that enables them to grab a photograph and write a memo next to it. It's a memo thing that they're able to keep. I create a way for them to save that data to the phone, and then next time they launch the app, it will bring in all the previously stored memos that they've taken and display them. So things once we've done it. That was just to really show that you can get access to it. Really, I just wanted to show something that was specific to the phone.
Awesome. That's a great idea for an app, by the way. I love that concept. And I think, we do have a question here from Patrick. Speed versus Xcode or Google Apps? I really don't know what that means. Speed versus Xcode or Google Apps?
Okay, so I presume what Patrick is saying, that should somebody becoming a native developer, or should they becoming a PhoneGap developer where they The honest truth is, it depends exactly what you want it to do. If you've got to create something that's cross-platform, turn around relatively quickly, you JavaScript, HTML, and CSS skills, and that works pretty well. If you want something that to have lightning performance on something like iOS only or on Android only, then yes, it makes more sense to become a specialist in that field. Unfortunately, not everybody has the time and ability to be able to do that. I certainly actually don't have the time to be a dedicated developer to one of those fields, so I tend to do a little bit of everything. Unfortunately,
excellent. Mark, thank you so much. I know that was a little bit difficult. Apologies for interrupting you in the middle of your session. I appreciate refocusing. Thank you for that. That was really, really great, and I'm sure that's given everyone between those two sessions, and I'll make sure there's a clear link between the two in the resources. People will be able to move forward and start creating some cool apps, and then look at getting a developer license so they can actually start publishing them. So that's cool. Thank you very much, Mark. Now don't forget, everyone, we do have an Adobe Gen Pro Apps course starting that Mark will be the lead instructor for, and that will be starting on the 29th of May. And please feel free to come along. Ooh, wrong link. Please feel free to join us for that. It's a great course. So, Mark, thank you very much for all your time and effort this morning. And I hope that we will see you all again online in 2 weeks. Mark, did you want to finish off with anything? Excellent. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great evening or afternoon or morning or night or wherever you are. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks when we come
specifically,
back
just want to say thanks to everyone. JavaScript, HTML, and CSS skills,
with InDesign,
and that works pretty well.
So look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you very much, everyone.
If you want something that to have lightning performance on something like iOS only or on Android only, then yes, it makes more sense to become a specialist in that field. Unfortunately, not everybody has the time.
Thank you so
JavaScript,
much.
HTML, and CSS skills, and that works pretty well. If you want something that to have lightning performance on something like iOS only or Android only, then yes, it makes more sense to become a specialist.
So apologies for that.
Unfortunately, not everybody has the time and ability to be able to do that. I certainly actually don't have the time to be a dedicated developer to one of those fields, so I tend to do a little bit of everything.
Yes. Yes, I think so. Yeah. There is just so you know, for when you're doing the live classes, there was a bit of a buzz. There was a bit of like an interference when you're using your phone with that, with the connection you create between your phone and the computer. A little bit of a buzz happens at that time. So that's unavoidable, but just let people know like that there's a buzz, and that's how, maybe, I don't know, I was just thinking, how do we get around this? Because it's, yeah. Yeah. Oh, good, good. Awesome. No, it's not. Yeah,
Not specifically. Just want to say thanks to everyone.
It's just one of those things you
HTML and
can't be
CSS
fixed, but
skills.
just an awareness of it. But that's
And
cool.
that works
Thank
pretty
you.
well.
I was going to say to... Yeah, no, that's all. I think that was it.
If you want something
I'm going to edit out
lightning
that
performance on
section.
something like iOS
I'm going to
only
take out
or
that
Android
section where
only,
we had the
then yes,
little road
it
bump
makes more sense to
before I
become a
upload it
specialist
to
in that
YouTube,
field.
So don't worry about that.
Unfortunately, not everybody has the time and
All right,
ability
then,
to do that. I certainly actually don't have the time to be a dedicated developer to one of those fields. So I
Thank
tend
you
to
so
do a
much,
little bit
Mark.
of
I
everything.
appreciate it. Bye-bye.